Hello. Today I'm going to read you Ruby. This is the second book that I ever wrote and illustrated, so it's a very old book. Clive Eats Alligators was the first and this was the second one. It says for Edwin, and Edwin is my husband Eddie, so the book is dedicated to him. And the book story was inspired a little bit by a blanket that my eldest son Will had when he was a baby, a special little quilt that I made him that he called Bestie. When Ruby was a baby, her mother made a beautiful patchwork quilt to keep her safe and warm. As Ruby grew older, she loved her quilt more and more. She called it Bestie because it was her best friend. Bestie went everywhere with Ruby. Bestie always lay on Ruby's bed as she slept. With Bestie on her bed, Ruby could sleep safely through the night, protected from the serpent she was sure lived under her bed. But one hot summer night, Ruby went to bed without Bestie. Her mother had washed Bestie that day and it was still out on the clothesline. Ruby thought she couldn't live through the night without Bestie. She climbed out the window to fetch Bestie, making sure she kept far away from the serpent. Softly she padded across the dry lawn. Bestie seemed to beckon Ruby from the clothesline. As Ruby grasped Betsy's corners, she felt herself rising gently into the night air. Silently she rose above the houses and trees. Ruby was flying. Higher and faster she flew up over the bay, leaving behind the lights of the sleeping city. The stars were very close and the sea shimmered silver as Ruby rode Bestie. In the distance, Ruby saw an island. Ruby and Bestie glided down onto an island beach. There some animals were waving anxiously. And can you see it says SOS on the beach? They've made an SOS out of shells. And you know an SOS is a sign for help. It means save our souls. We need your help, cried Queen Zinnia. Our cubs have been kidnapped by the vicious serpent Saracen. Today is the triplets' birthday and we have prepared a midnight feast, but Saracen has cast a terrible spell. Ruby followed the tearful family down to the river. There she saw the miserable cubs huddled on the opposite bank. Coiled in a tree was the vicious serpent Saracen, its eyes glistening with cruel pleasure. Even my husband, King Vidor, and our loyal equerry, Sir Uncle Elmo, are powerless, sobbed Queen Zinnia. Only you and Bestie can save our children. Ruby felt her heart grow cold. Ruby flung Bestie over her shoulders and edged out onto the mossy log. She was shaking a little but raised her head to stare fiercely at Saracen. The serpent slithered back into the jungle. Ruby gathered the tear-stained cubs into her arms. Proudly she carried the babies back across the river. Queen Zinnia, King Vidor and Sir Uncle Elmo were overcome with joy. Now the birthday celebrations could begin. You have saved our beloved children, and we grant you and Bestie the freedom of our country, boomed King Vidor. in his deep, growly voice, "You are welcome here forever." The cubs performed their tumbling act in honour of Ruby and Bestie, and Queen Zinnia presented Ruby with the highest honour of the land, the blue bird of bravery. Sir Uncle Elmo sewed the medallion onto Bestie with gold thread. The sky was growing pale in the east. It was time for Ruby and Bestie to go home. Bestie carried Ruby up and away. Behind her, Ruby could hear the sound of Sir Uncle Elmo's lute as the birthday revels went on. Soon Ruby was back in bed, fast asleep. When she woke, the sun was high in the sky. Ruby looked at Bestie, lying in the usual place on her bed. The blue birds seemed to wink at her in the morning sun. Ruby found her old overalls under the bed and got ready for breakfast. So I wonder what was under the bed. And that's the end of the story. When I wrote this story, I had a lovely editor who's my friend, Rita Scharf. So thank you, Rita, for helping make this book so beautiful. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening, everyone. Good night.